Good evening and welcome to the 317th meeting of the New York Comics and Picture Stories Symposium. This is a weekly lecture series on comics, illustration, animation, and the history of text image work. The series is sponsored in part by the Will and Ann Eisner Family Foundation. And our guest tonight is Karolina Głusiec. I think that's close enough.
Amazing.
I tried to study that. She's a visual artist working with animation and do-it-yourself film media, and she's inspired by ways of seeing and ways of remembering. She's collaborated on many projects inspired by and rooted in music. She's currently working and teaching at Goldsmiths University in London and the Academy of Fine Arts in Krakow, Poland, and does workshops at other universities and institutions in England. As a collaborator and visual artist, she's worked with The Guardian, Stara Zecca, the Royal College of Art, the House of Words, California Institute of the Arts, and many others. There's a full list on her bio if you go to the Comic Symposium website. Her works and films have been presented and exhibited at the Entropia Gallery in Warsaw, Poland, at the National Gallery in Washington, D.C., at the Grunt Gallery in Vancouver, British Columbia, and many other places. She's speaking to us tonight from London, and her talk is entitled "Everything Wrong is Imaginary: How Memory and Memory Shape Drawings, Paintings, and Films, Rooted in What Once Happened in the Past." So welcome, Karolina.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for inviting me over. And I'd like to thank everyone that has decided to join us tonight. And I'm really pleased that you're all in here. And well, yeah. So, well, just to start, the title of this talk is borrowed from a music record by the band called Lilies. And well, as everything in life and work and making artworks is sort of interlaced, it was a record that I used to listen to when everything that I wanted to do was beyond my control, including artworks, including resources, including life. And I kind of like thought that, oh, that would be a good title for my talk, because when Ben suggested me that I could be one of his guests, I thought like, how about if I actually talk not about like things that are victories and things that went all great and things that that are like super successful, but about things that actually seemed to be failures and seemed not to be working at all. And I do believe that like as some other artists, like this is primarily like what my work is mainly about. And like as someone once said, sometimes some really, really, really rubbish memories turn into really good, memorable things that we like to think about. And it does not mean anything like masochistic or anything like that, but like, yeah, well, I'm just going to start from showing one of the films that I once made. And it was a collaboration between between a musician that was based in Poland when I lived in London, And what's funny about it is that when I was making it, I, like same as now, like Ben has mentioned that, right? Like I work in many different places, many different universities, but at the moment my main day job is at the factory. And at that time, like my main day job was also like in the factory. I was doing like shift works, but still, just like after I would go after my shift, I would go to the studio where I don't know, where I was sharing with other people and was just like doing what I like. But like for my friends based in Poland, I had like a dream life somewhere in London, surrounded by all these things, all this amazing, I don't know, all these amazing events to be happening. And like coming back to the title, like sometimes we're all ending up comparing ourselves with others, thinking that everything is meant to be perfect, or like everything that we see on Instagram is how it is. But that's just like one layer of the story. But let me share my screen and I will just show you that video. And okay, I hope you can see it very well.
I can't see it.
Okay.
I hear it, but I don't see it.
Let me just do another, just like another way. I'm sorry about that. And let's just do it as it should be. Boom, and share. And
now I see it. But
okay.
Now it's good. Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I hope it worked for everybody, but like in case it was lagging, please let me know. So so maybe I can just like send you the link so you can rewatch it. And so this film was made entirely just like in animated hand-drawn technique, just by making multiple drawings on paper. And it's really funny for me to talk about it now because like back then in 2013, I was just straight after college. I graduated from Royal College of Art. I did my MA there, but I had experienced some health conditions that made my eyes extremely sensitive to light and artificial light. Therefore, I was not able to look at the computer screens much. Therefore, you can see the inverted image, which would make it less contrasted and like more bearable for me to edit. But it was entirely like, drawn with like charcoal and graphite on paper. And also like for me, it was like something extremely rewarding and extremely like satisfying to collaborate with people, knowing that they could trust me and knowing that, okay, great. I always wanted to make music videos. I always wanted to collaborate with musicians that, I don't know, that want to share their music with me. So I literally was thinking that I'm extremely lucky, that I was extremely lucky back then because I wouldn't imagine that anyone would have offered me a job like an animator that's, okay, cool, had skills, but cannot use any software, can only work analog or like do some really basic editings because I literally could not spend, I don't know, 15 minutes in front of the screen continuously. And I also like, well, that's going to be like an ongoing topic of this conversation, like memories. The memory that I have from creating this one was that I was just about to send it to one of the people that used to run this like small independent record label that commissioned me or like asked me to do it. And like we had this conversation before he was moving to another city to live with his partner back then. And like he was just like a bit nervous, being like, okay, is it gonna work? Are we gonna make it on time? I'm just about to download your transfer, but my bus is leaving in 20 minutes. And that was like 6 years, no, that was like over 7 years ago. So like you can imagine like how unreliable like these things were. But like also for me, like it was like one of the lessons that obviously made me to sort of accept the fact that even though I could do everything I could, or like everything that I wanted to, time is the limit. And sometimes it's nice, or like sometimes it's actually okay to accept the compromises to be able what you can do and to maybe not beat yourself up too much, being like, okay, great. Like this is a chance. Maybe compromise is not anything wrong. Maybe compromise is actually a chance and a good thing to make. And like, well, talking about that, I'm also gonna like share my screen now and gonna show you like short clip of, well, that was actually like a video that I made at the beginning of this year. And I remember being asked by Royal College of Art to lead the work in progress show session, which was a live broadcast, and it was all like animated live by me and the students. We would create something like a live broadcast, which was something in between a radio show and a video performance. So the students were drawing their sequences and sending them to me, and I was just like editing them to the music. So it looked a little bit like a house party because they had their big show, but no one could actually dance together. It was the pandemic, so you could literally have like, okay, you and your housemates or you and your family in the house. And the students wanted to like study at the Royal College of Art because that was their dream. But hey, they had their big show, big work in progress show, but no one could see it. So we tried to make it fun. And when they first asked me to do it, I was like, okay, maybe I could animate something. But at that stage, I was like, maybe I'm a bit done with animating, because in 2020, I did lots of animation and lots of films that I'm going to mention about later. And okay, I'm going to stop talking and we'll just share my screen. So. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to like mute it and like talk a little bit over it, because that's going to be looping for a while. You know, when the pandemic happened and we all were like social distancing, and like me and my housemate Jamie were like imagining like a hug between us and our friends that we have not seen for a while, and it technically was not allowed to like hug people. So we were just like, how about if we just like pass by and someone records us with a camera, so we're actually like hugging someone, but we are like crossing the street and they are going the opposite direction. And this also was I don't know, I did this like, this animation is literally like 10 or 11 drawings, but it's something like really easy to make. And like every time I'm teaching like the people that are just like attempting to do animation, I'm just trying to encourage them that, okay, look, this is like what you start from. And just like once you get yourself to it, you can do 3D, you can do like all this like Wacom magic, you can do 2D, you can do whatever you like. But like first just like get your pencil, get like whatever you've got, and just like start playing around with it. And like connecting it with another memory. It was really, really difficult winter here in London. It was very cold. And I remember like reading a poem on this like website that I'm subscribed to. And the poem would start from the line that said, "We lived in a hug, shivering with cold." And I think that this winter could have led to like something very dramatic, because our boiler broke, I was in a hospital, and we lived for like 3 weeks without hot water and heating. And we could literally just like, I don't know, if we were different people, we would have like killed each other or never talked to each other again and just move out. But instead we we stayed in this place. Now we're running a gallery from our flat. So you can see like some of the rubbish memories sometimes turn into like the beginnings of something really, really fun and really great. And yeah, just like, well, I'm just going to be like showing like still images now to talk a little bit about compromising, or maybe making something that, well, I can talk about myself. So making something that I was able to make at the time when I was creating these images. But still, like sometimes you want it all. You want it to make it look great, but you don't have time, you don't have resources. or you are just thinking that it happens to me really often, that you're not good enough, or, you know, if it's gonna work. There can be like many things that could just like slow the process. Okay, so I'm sharing. So okay, I think you can see this image. So like in the picture that you can see like a person, like, I don't know, with the camera taking a picture. You can see a landscape. You can see like some random images that could be abstract. They could be firework. They could be people. You can see some like kids passing, some notes, some lines that can look like, I don't know, maybe water, maybe sand, maybe mud. And this is like one of the 6 images that I did when I was stuck in Poland for 8 months at the beginning of the pandemic last year, like beginning of March 2020. And I was surrounded by images that were in my brother's room. And I was staying with my mom. That was like a place where I have not lived since I left for uni in my, I don't know, late teenage years. Like I was 19 when I moved out. And then like in 2020, I was sleeping in my brother's bedroom, surrounded with all this like memorabilia, with all this like posters and like, I don't know, things from scrapbooks, really, things that he kept, images of people that we knew or we didn't know. And I thought that I was going slightly mad. And like I was trying to communicate with friends of mine that were also like stuck somewhere. And like as we missed each other like a lot, we tried to like talk about our reality, which was really like things that we would find our reality just somewhere like outside of all this like news streams and things outside of our windows, which looked pretty much the same everywhere at that time. Probably just like people doing grocery shopping, people walking the dogs. So I'm just going to show the other images to you. And okay, so you can see this image is something that is like really like connected to what I've already introduced. So like these people are like, I don't know, some silhouettes of people that were from like news article that my brother kept. He obviously like had like lots of images of like sportsmen, like, I don't know, basketball players, some like pictures of like places that he always wanted to go and travel, wanted to go and see. But there were also like some, obviously it was just like my mom's house. So there were like pictures of our family, of like family members that I don't even remember, but they were just there because they were meant to be there. So I was just surrounded by like lots of the things rooted in the past. And at the same time, I just felt like, great, like, I don't know if I really have any connections to them. But at the same time, I lived in my brother's room. And back then, like, he was at the hospital because he was, well, he had this like health condition that was very severe. And that's why I went to Poland. And before that, like, I was based outside of Poland. And I thought like, okay, yeah, what sense does it make? What can I make of it? And I'm just showing it to you, not for proving anything that, okay, great, it's amazing to draw every day. Of course it is. But like sometimes you don't make drawings to make a fantastic drawings. You just do it to pass the time. Or you just, I don't know, do your drawings to do something with your reality without any reason that you would have find anything that would make sense. Because back then, nothing would make any sense. And like I also remember from then, like the probably like same as like all of you, this feeling of anticipation, or like this kind of feeling of like waiting for something to happen, or waiting for something to stop happening, waiting for something to be over. And yeah, eventually it did. But like still, it's just like, it's the memories that we make of it that are ours, that are important. And sometimes they start with, you know, something obviously like not that pleasant or not that interesting. And yeah, just like well, okay, so I'm just going to show something slightly different now. Talking about like memories and landscapes. I don't know if like any of you, probably like most of us, have this feeling sometimes that we are visiting places and we want to take pictures of the most amazing waterfalls, or most amazing sunsets, or most amazing, I don't know, mountain views. But like anytime we attempt to recreating them from memories by drawings, or like just looking at the picture and sharing with someone, sometimes it just doesn't do any justice. And I'm just not telling it to be like I don't know, brutal or anything. I'm just talking about myself, like my own experiences. So like that's why it always used to be easier for me to maybe draw, maybe just like create a fragment of imagery that was just like a splinter, maybe just like a fraction of something that I remembered, like the reflections on the water, or something that is kind of like difficult mm, to express with images only. Like how would you like share the, I don't know, like the image from the mountains and a place where you could see and hear a waterfall that looked magnificent for a split second, only in that time of the day when you had this time, when you had this like sunlight reflecting upon it. So like at the beginning, when I was a little bit younger, I used to be like, okay, it doesn't make any sense. Like these images do not really exist. They're only in my head. What do I do with them? But then I just found that the more I shared it with like other people and I don't know, kind of use them as links with some things between things that I saw and things that I remembered, they would associate them with something that they once remembered from places that they went themselves, even though they were somewhere else. And thanks to these conversations, we would have known each other better and learn about some things and some like landscapes and memories that were important for both of us. So like these images are like, well, they're based on like some sketches that I did for one of my films, The Instrument. But they're all based on like memory landscapes and like places that actually did exist. And I think I'm just going to go to a music video to like have like a breather, and yeah, and then I'll just like carry on to the other works. So let's just share my screen now again. Mhm. Thank you for the comments. And yeah, so like, yeah, sorry, I just got a little bit distracted now, but like I've never actually like been taking part in something like that. But well, I showed this video just to like talk a little bit about like what happens to like a lot of us, I think, when we share our works with our family or like with our friends. But uh, obviously, like we all have different things we focus on. And I remember my friend Maciej, who is a wonderful comic book artist and an illustrator. And he's based in Poland. His name is Maciej Pałka, and he makes amazing, tremendous amounts of works, comic books. But like his son, that was like 2 or 3 years ago. His son was like 10 years old back then. Like he asked him this question: Dad, can you actually draw? But like draw like, you know, just like a normal person. Just like, can you draw like in not this weird stuff, but like, can you draw a horse, or can you draw like a proper person that looks like a proper person? Can you draw like an artist? Like, what are you doing? And like my granddad, who is probably one of my favorite artists, like my granddad used to be a farmer and a maths teacher and like a DIY inventor of like all the possible home appliances that we didn't own. Like he would have be able to make it. Like when I graduated from the RCA and like showed him the graduation film, he was like, are you serious? Like you can draw better than that? Like you can you have not really worked on it much, have you? And like I think that was like one of the best comments ever, because I think like what I like about animation and about collaborating and making music videos is that you can be really versatile. And for me, like music is probably like the most important and inspiring form of art, because like all the collaborations that I did with other musicians were initiated by them. Like they would reach out to me, and what I was doing, I was just like blending in and like trying to speak their voice, but to remain invisible. That's why like sometimes even like some of my friends are like asking me, okay, are you still doing these whimsical drawings? I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know what is my style. Like, I don't really know what is my style of drawing. It depends, like, who am I with? And uh, the way I'm kind of like getting lost in like this contact with people. So, like, this video was made for the band called Yeah, and there were like 3 friends. And it was another like a remote collaboration. I was based in London back then, and they all lived in Poland. They lived in 3 different places, and they were apart. I was apart from them, and we ended up going for a 1-year-long tour. And I was doing live visuals with them, playing live animated visuals at their shows. And I remember like this is like another like rubbish memory, but also like very funny one. I remember when this video was posted on YouTube, and they had like now they have like 50,000 views for this. But like at the time where they had this song on the radio, and it was it was quite a success because it was their dream. There was something like that they did for fun, for love. And what would you expect from like making songs for fun and singing them in an imaginary language when you have like a live radio broadcast? It's great, isn't it? And at that time, I didn't have a home, so I've lost my home. So I remember the place where I worked. I used to run this um, uh, art hub like micro art hub place that was in like a southeast London in Forest Hill, and we used to run weekly short film nights. And one of my colleagues asked me to like show this, and all of my drawings that I did for this film were packed in cardboard boxes, just like somewhere in the corner of my room, of that, not my room, of that like studio space that used to be like our art community space. And like, along with like all the stuff that we packed frantically when we had to like move out from the place that we had to move out from. And like, I would have never imagined that I would be doing this talk. No, just like, I don't know, 7 years after. So I think like sometimes it's worth compromising, or worth just like having like a dream, or like something that, I don't know, maybe like accepting something that someone would like to share with you, because it becomes something special. Okay, I'm just going to show like really like a short film and talk like on top of it. And then maybe, because like I've realized it's almost like quarter to 8. But like, is it okay if I still talk for a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So just let me show you this. So this, let me just like choose like one image. So this is actually a souvenir from a concert that happened like in the middle of the pandemic when I was still in Poland. And that was like a concert when the roles inverted. Like my friends that were in that band that I did the music video for like 7 years ago, played live music to one of the films that I made that was 40 minutes long, animated film. So they did like live soundtrack to it. And at that time I was just like, okay, I need to make things that look properly. I'm tired of like rushing. I'm tired of like being shuttered. I really want to take time and make a film that I want to make. I really want it to look, I don't know, not like professional, but like look like the way I want it to look like. So I was sort of like, not like against myself, but like I thought that I had this like strong urge to make something different, to make a film that is a little bit like a painting. And the reason why I mentioned painting is I believe that people that are pursuing painting and are painters are probably like the bravest people that I know, because it takes a lot of courage to, I mean, that's what I think. I think it takes a lot of courage to allow yourself to spend time on something and paint something for like a couple of years until you get it right. While I'm coming from something totally opposite, from, okay, do it the way you can. But like, it's more important if you do it for somebody. And like painting is, obviously, it's also like primarily for people that want to say it. But you sort of extend that time. And I sort of wanted to try it with animation for many years. But simply enough, I was scared of failing, or maybe scared of not having enough time. So, what can I show you now? I think like okay, maybe I can just like show you little like excerpts from things that are close to maybe my attempts of like freezing the time and making something in between animation and painting. But like still, I cannot call myself painter. I've never made a painting. I think like all that I do now are like structured drawings, because like this year I kind of differed from animation and tried to do more sculptural or like flat drawing image works. But like this film was made in 2014 and it was commissioned by Animate Projects in London, and it was shown at a gallery called Pier at one of the shop fronts. At the gallery front that was in between a post office, and there was also a cash machine, and it was open to it was open for everyone that was passing by the street. So for me, it was just like an ideal surrounding, an ideal situation to display an artwork for anyone that wants to stop by and look at the images. It's a very short film. Okay, so I don't know if I should answer like the questions on the chat by like talking or like sorry, I'm just like not used to this kind of situation. But like I was just going to ask if anyone has any questions, and then I looked at the screen. So Julian Davis says, is most of your work inspired by music, or do you find the music after creating the images? I think most of my work is inspired by music. even the work that I do for myself, because like most of my work that you've seen during this presentation were music videos, but like when I'm animating or like when I'm drawing and painting, first things that I think of that inspired me is usually music, usually something that I've heard somewhere, or like things that someone once have said. So it's always like rooted somewhere in like closer or like more distant past. So most of my work is inspired by music for sure. And like I well, I don't really, I'm not a great performer. I'm a good listener, so maybe that's why. And yeah, does anyone have any more questions?
What was the name of the Polish cartoonist you mentioned? Maciej Polka? You mentioned.
Maciej Polka.
How do you, can you write that in the chat?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Oops.
Yeah, so you should like.
I don't see it.
Oh no, I think I just like sent it to Julian. Wait, so Maciej Polka, where? Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And yeah,
what made you decide to go to school in London?
Music. I just like I'm not gonna lie. I moved to London when there was this economical crisis in Poland, and like everyone in Poland like that was born in I think like late 80s, when it was like 2005 when we all were finishing high school. I think like good half of us dreamed of going elsewhere. And it suddenly became possible because, okay, Poland joined the European Union. And like some of my friends were like brave enough to leave just after like finishing high school. But like I come from like southeast of Poland. So back then, like going to the uni was really bonkers idea. Like people would go to work after high school. That was a reasonable thing to do. And like I went to the other city. Like I went to study in Łódź, which was really far from like where I lived with my mom and where I lived with my grandparents. It was just like super distant. And like the idea of studying art was like really, really abstract it was just like really opposite to the reality that was going on. And like, yeah, I always wanted to live in the UK because of music. And like, that was just like my one of my first conscious dreams when I was like late teenager. Being like, okay, great, I want to go to Leeds because there's lots of like post-punk music. Or I always wanted to go to Glasgow because I don't know, because bands that were from there recorded amazing albums. So I went to London because there was a chance to go there, and I didn't have plans to go to the RCA as a first thing. Like that was also like a really, really, really happy coincidence that I got the place.
Thank you. Maybe if I could follow that up. So you mentioned that when even when you were younger, you had a very specific sense of like that music and like maybe certain moments and scenery gave you, and you're trying to understand like how to give that feeling as opposed to just like the literal image. So what was the connection point? Like how did you find your way into animation? When did you discover that like animation was a way that you could convey that, or how?
Yeah, it's like I think it's like really, really nice question. And like it makes me think of like back when I was little, I used to spend a lot of time on my own because I was raised by my grandparents. Like my mom was really young when I was born, so she could not like spend any time with me. Like she still had to like go to uni, and like we lived apart for a very long time. And I was maybe luckily surrounded with lots of like books and lots of like, I don't know, things that were in my grandparents' house. And because I had like so much time on my own and I was very bored, probably like as a kid, or like very, I don't know, creative, because like I think like kids are never bored. I kind of like thought like, it would be amazing if I could have like a character from this book and from this book just like playing together. And it's just like, probably that was like the main reason that made me like blend in like animation with like music and with like some sounds, like just by playing, being a kid really. And it's just like another thing, like when you mentioned like connecting like image with music. When I first moved to London, I had like lots of jobs that were, I mean, lots of jobs. My first jobs were like in factories or in like hotels, restaurants, and I loved being on the bus or like walking with my headphones on. And sometimes when, most of the times, I was really doing this kind of like psychedelic, I don't know, disconnection. Like when you're on the bus after work and you know you're gonna commute for like an hour, like my way of like surviving that was just listening to songs and just like making up a connection from like what I saw through the window to what I was listening to. So
cool. So you kind of continue to do like that, like bring the two characters together, like as you're older, when you're older too.
yeah. So that's like you know, it's all like borrowed. It's all something like I think it's just like this is like what animation is to me, like connecting things that exist or like things that I remembered with something that is there, but it's just like there for like a split second. And the music is like the main axis that makes it all like sit together.
Awesome, thank you.
Welcome.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay.
I don't know, like I maybe, like, because I do realize that it's like quite late and I don't know, you probably have to like Ben, please let me know when do we have to like wrap up, because there's like one thing that I would like to show.
Oh yeah, show it, sure.
Yeah, so just like mentioning this kind of like a dream of making films that look properly, because like I'm not like showing you any works that I made commercially, like, or actually like, why do I say that? I never made anything like commercially. I was always like asked by friends to like, do you want to work on the commission for the Guardian with me? Sure, I do. Great. What are you doing? Something that you like doing. Haha. So it was always like very pleasant, like working with animation, probably because I had like lots of, I don't know, full-time normal jobs. But I had this kind of an idea for long to make this trilogy that was based on basically like collections of losses, but like also like collections of souvenirs, something really naive, like really like rooted in my childhood, or something that one of you has just like mentioned in the question, like, okay, yeah, what is animation for you? Like for me, it's something like creating something like a snowball. something that is like an image that is like nice and you want to keep it forever and you want to come back to it, but it's also like a moving thing and it interacts with the way how you want to say it. So okay, I'm gonna share my screen. So like I think like since 2013 I started doing this kind of painted animated experiments, and well, and I really kind of like had this idea that, okay, I'm just gonna do only this. I'm just gonna get the funding, make the film, and it's all gonna happen. And then I'll just do something else. But I'm just going to spend all the time in my life to do it. So I was just like experimenting on making films that I knew how I wanted them to look like. One of them was meant to be on sound, and it was called The Instrument, which was meant to be a collection of like abstract sequences edited with sound, so that it would make like a symphony that would be, you know, like very, very integrate, that would make that kind of like a feeling, an impression that, okay, there is no sound that makes sense without an image, and the other way around. So I really wanted to make a collaboration with like one of the musicians that I've known back then, and had this idea of, okay, yeah, let's make this integral piece. And the other one was called The Fool, and it was just like a film on naivety, on like things that are just like an illusion in themselves. The more you try to chase them, the more you try to, I don't know, keep them in a box and like show someone how pretty they are. And like I've ended up not really making my vision coming true because it was impossible. Like life is life. I literally spent like maybe just like 6 months on like working on it continuously, to be honest, drawing and painting. But like reality is reality. So like imagine like spending like 6 months on working on something that long, but from 2013 until 2020 when I finished that. So I had like plenty of things happening in between. So it's a bit of like I'm not like super proud of it because like, I mean, but actually why not? It's just like, at least I had this kind of urge to finishing it. And I only finished it last year. And I think it's something that, you know, sometimes like I think that, okay, it's not a great film at all, but like today I've almost ended up watching The Fool, which is 40 minutes long, and I thought like, yeah, that's not too bad. It's actually something that I really wanted to make for myself. So maybe I really got close to this idea of making a painting, because like I thought that painting is something that you make because you want to, and you want to spend this time on completing it the way you want to. So like these images that you see are still frames from The Fool, and some of them are based on like this, like maybe some like pictures that I thought that, okay, this character looks something like I don't know, some illustration from like the kids' books that I used to like. And this character is actually like my granddad sleeping. This is like an actual picture that I once held, etc., etc. And this is like an image of, well, I remember taking a picture with my phone when I was like traveling in America. And that was just like when I was on Greyhound from, I think it was from Phoenix, Arizona to Los Angeles at night. And there was someone sitting by the window and had this like amazing like fairground, like theme park at night, and was not even looking at it. And I thought like, oh, this is such a beautiful image. This is such a beautiful picture. But like what you see on the screen now is my only attempt and my only way I was able to capture it. So you could see like how close I got to this idea of like making a film about being naive and the importance of being really naive, at least to me. And yeah, I've ended up like making this film like a letter to a friend. So it's all like subtitled. And I had not really like submitted it to any festivals. Like I was lucky that some of the people that knew me were interested in like the works that I was making, and they were really curious about the process, because I was sharing a lot of work in progress, but I was never really willing to finish it, and I was scared to look at the things that I've done. And I think it's something like when you start working with moving image and animation, sometimes it's just like a feeling of like disconnection and feeling of like, okay, great, so I won't be having any more fun drawing. That's the time when I have to stop drawing. But for me, it was also like living in between different places. Like when I work on this film throughout this like 7 years, I think I lived in around like 30 homes. Like, to be fair, or I don't know, more. When I was just like continuously traveling, I don't even count that. But yeah, and this is actually, okay, maybe I'll just come back to this once. This is actually this image of a driver, which you can see is not actually a driver. It's like my interpretation of one of my favorite paintings by Andrzej Wróblewski. And I think I'm gonna write it in the chat. Like he did this like series of drivers. They were all like different paintings of this like solitary figure, like from the back perspective, driving forward. And I sort of always would find it extremely beautiful, and I wouldn't know why. I don't have the reason why I like these paintings. I like them since I was little. And I had this like a dream of like, okay, cool. If I make my own film, I'm just going to animate them. And this is also like this image of like the plane. Sorry, I'm just going quite fast. It's like based on a painting made by one of my best friends, Joshua Armitage, who is a painter, and he studied at the RCA with me at the same year. And like this film is like a very naive souvenir that I wanted to make, just like as if I wanted to prove myself that, okay, I want to make a film with everyone that I like and everything that I like. And I wanted to make it like a kind of like a message to a friend whom I have not seen for ages. And I have not responded to the messages because I simply had not enough time, or there was not the right time to do it properly. So I may show you like a fragment of this film. And yeah, I just like stop sharing my screen to find it. So you can see like it's a little bit different, but I mean, it's same as the title of my talk. It may be like a complete failure at some point, but like I still like, I find it like quite surprising coming back to it. So Just maybe because we're running like quite late, I might just like try to like talk a little bit on top of it, because this is like a film that is 40 minutes long, but I can send you a link to it so you can watch it on Vimeo. And yeah, this is sort of like a maybe like an homage, like a kind of like a film dedicated to people that inspired me the most and who are my favorite artists, including my granddad, including like most of my friends, including people that once made this like song that stuck in my head forever. And like it's sort of like a letter, as you've already have noticed. It's something like a direct message to like someone that is very important. And I kind of like, I never imagined to show it at festivals or something like that, but like I usually would always like send this film directly to people that ask me like, oh, I want to see it, and then like I would send them the link. But it was shown at this like online festival last year at the Barbican, organized by the Edge of Frame, Edwin Rostron, who's a curator from London and also independent animator. But like what I was trying to say, like I once had this idea of like donating this film to, I don't know, to like a waiting room or like a hospital or like somewhere where people had like lots of time to wait for something. Just to be somewhere in like a background that you don't need to watch it in full, but can just like decide where you want to, when you want to stop by and how long for. Which is like same as this film called Out of Sight, this like black and white film with rabbits that you saw at the beginning of my presentation, that was shown at the gallery that was, you know, near the zebra crossing between the post office and the cash machine. So I think like I'm not, I don't have that, and I don't know, I never like thought of having that much power to make someone like look at my work here and now. And like, that's why I think like painting or like paintings are extremely powerful themselves, because they bring people to them, not the other way around. No one makes you stop and look at something that draws your attention. It's in the painting. So yeah.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah. So is it intentional that the text is on such a short time in this one you just showed us?
Sorry, can you just say again? Because like I think I missed something.
Was it intentional that the text was up for such a short time?
Yeah, I think it's like a, does it seem like too short to be able to read it? Because like I thought it was just like enough time, but that's like really good remark, because like I intended it to be just like as long as possible so people could read it and understand it. But like if like you've just like mentioned that it's so short, right? So that's my bad. That's something that I have not intended at all. Yeah.
So a technical question. So you work with the Wacom tablet?
Not at all.
Oh, you don't. So what software do you use for the doing animation?
I usually just like do everything like hand painted or like hand drawn, scan it in, and then use Premiere or After Effects to combine the streams of drawings into sequences. And like, of course, like I've trained myself like earlier, like to use like Flash, to use Harmony, to use like After Effects, and to like draw with Wacom. It's great. It's like, it's a fun thing to do. And like, I teach people how to use this software, but like, this is like not my, not my way of working at all. So yeah, I think like my software, like the ways how I use animation software are like very basic. And I literally like use like really basic editing as well. So I try to make everything just like make as much on paper as possible. So that's sort of like my idea.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Those were great. So you'll send me some links, and I'll put them up with the video so people can watch it on a perfect full screen.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for hanging out and for like inviting me. It was like a pleasure.
Yeah, a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great work. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you and good night. Have a good night.